Good morning, Rick.
Hey, good morning, Keith. How are you today?
Very good to see you. I'm doing great now. And this, yeah, I'm just really grateful to see you. Just really grateful for, all the goodness in my life and grateful for this work that we do. I want to kick it off with this. The title of this one is going to be Never Blame Others for Giving You an Opportunity to Grow.
Oh, gosh.
So you want me to start with it?
Yes, please.
When I think about where I was as Keith 1.0, and I know that at any moment that if I stop doing the work, I could revert back to that old behavior and all the suffering that comes with it. The way that I would have taken this title of this episode before would have been in a way that doesn't make me peaceful inside. So, for example, never blame others for giving you an opportunity to grow would have been me using whatever my interpretation of what they may have done or said as motivation to rise, not to rise above it, but to be successful or to achieve in spite of what they might have said. So, for example, if someone, looked at my biological race and my interpretation was, or they said explicitly that I can't do the job because of my race, I would use that as motivation. Uh,
Mm.
judge what they've said, use it as motivation. I'll show you. I'll be twice as good as what you expect. And certainly people use things as bulletin board material as an opportunity to motivate themselves. But in doing so, at least when I did it, there would be some kind of implicit judgment toward the person who's saying it, blaming them, making them wrong, and using that as motivation. Instead, what I've learned to do is to hear what is said, uh, to accept it having been said, because it has nothing I can do can change that it's been said or done, and then allowing it to see if it hits any of my stuff inside, like see if my ego gets injured, if my mind has a comment to say about it that's not loving, that's not kind. And if that happens, I observe it, and then I let it pass right through me so that I can keep an open heart to the person. Behavior obviously has some consequences, but that's somebody else's job to deal out those consequences. My job is to keep an open heart and keep my inside clean. The other thing that would have happened as 1.0 had I taken what was said personally would have been I would have continued to carry it around for years. And I would have every time something similar, something was said or done that looked like it would bring up that old wound that I held on to. No one made me hold on to it. I held on to it. And I would continue to suffer every time I thought about it, every time I saw something that was similar to it, and I would close more and more. And what that would have done was it would have limited how much love I have inside, because what would have happened was the that capacity would have also been occupied by me holding on to this suffering, holding on to what I perceived as an act of ill will. So now what I do is that when people do stuff or say things that my mind has a problem with, I see it as an opportunity for me to work on myself, for me to just keep working on myself and letting that go and letting that go. And because I've been doing this for the last 8 years, and a lot of stuff has hit my stuff, the stuff that bothered me a while back doesn't bother me anymore. And I just keep letting go and letting go. So what do you think, Rick?
Well, before I get to my thoughts, as I listened to you, I was thinking, boy, what an amazing talent or practice you have. How did you get there? And I was thinking maybe it would be helpful if you talked a little bit about how it was that you came on this notion that you needed to change, and going from a place where it's easy to hate other people or to judge them to a place where you're open-hearted even when you're insulted. That's quite a change. That's quite an evolution. And I'm curious how that began. I have a hunch it had something to do with not feeling 100% human, or feeling like you were getting the most out of life in the old Keith point 1.0, and you needed to make a change. And you made that decision that something had to give, and then started to do some research. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's really fair, Rick. Yeah, along those lines, what I began to recognize, I guess I began to own um, my role in my internal suffering. I
Uh,
began to be aware that I'm the one holding this inside. It started out when we both went to Landmark, and I carried all this resentment toward my stepfather. And here I was, 37 years old. And the last time I had been in my stepfather's home was 16, 17 years. So any pain that I'm still suffering, I'm still experiencing, I'm doing that. Like I hadn't seen him, but I'm still holding on to that instead of working on letting that go. So part of it was that just being aware of how much I was doing that was causing me to feel the way I was inside, which was not peaceful, not loving, closing my heart. So that's part of it. The other part of it is I wanted to feel bliss and joy more than what I was feeling it. And a lot of that was associated with judging and blaming others for whatever I was experiencing. And it was trivial stuff. I'm in a rush, and the driver in front of me is not driving the way I think they should be driving. Like, why are you in this lane? This lane, you should be making a right turn here. And if you weren't in the way, I could be on my, just now that person's a problem. Or people in the workplace saying something that hit me the wrong way. And, just all those things, they just kept adding up. And eventually it was introduced to me through Landmark and other teachers that you and I like, that that suffering and peacefulness, or feeling peace, is an inside job. Both of them are. And so understanding that I was the one who was causing a significant amount of my suffering, I wanted to do something about it. And I started using everything that happened that my mind had a problem with was an opportunity to experience peace, to experience more joy, and to have less suffering in my life. And so I made it about me doing the work. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago about this idea of agency. This idea of, we love the idea of agency, of picking yourself up by your bootstraps and you're self-made and nobody helped you get there and you were so determined. Oh, but it's selective, because when it comes to like when things don't go your way, then it's the government's fault, or somebody you didn't get the job you wanted, or if you're not happy inside, it's your spouse or your significant other not meeting your needs, or your love languages. All of a sudden, that whole idea of agency is very selective. Whereas when it comes to you being successful out in the world, you like, no, everybody can have this. I don't know why they're lazy. They're not taking advantage of all these opportunities. There's a whole lot of opportunities to be peaceful inside. And so what I started doing was I stopped being selective about my agency. I stopped making it about me having a good attitude in the morning. I let go of this narrative that, hey, I'm not a morning person, or I haven't had my coffee yet, or that, it's the workplace's job to make sure that I have everything I need to be happy. Or my significant other. I let all that go. And I came back to, if I'm going to embrace this idea of agency, then it needs to be applied across the board. And the same thing. And by doing that, I took ownership about how I'm inside, and people were a great opportunity. People became a great opportunity for me to practice seeing them and their behavior that hit my stuff as an opportunity for me to grow, as an opportunity for me to let go of myself so I can experience more peace. And I just work on that all the time. And I say to myself that I don't want this person to change one bit, not until I've capitalized on this growth opportunity. Then they can change if they want to. But you know what? By the time they change, if they do, I don't need to do it anymore because it doesn't bother me anymore because I've worked on myself without needing them to do something. That's a great place to be, Ray.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's an amazing story, but I think you're right. The powerful notion that you can control your own feelings is something that seems to be foreign to us. And it was to me for a long time, until I realized that I was the guy who was causing my suffering, and I didn't want to suffer anymore. So I started out by practicing, okay, I'm going to have two columns in my head, things that I can control and things that I can't control. And then I tried to focus on whether my reactions were coming from stuff that happened outside of me or stuff that was a reactive sort of energy from a stimulus I didn't like. And that was causing my trouble. And it turned out that everything ended up in the same column. It's all me, like the traffic example. I'm thinking, okay, here's a guy who definitely isn't the causing me pain problem, right? He's in that column. Yeah, no, like you say, if you are adjusted to the idea that you are responsible for everything that happens in your life, you're not responsible for his bad driving, but you are responsible for how that lands on you. So what I took a long time to get over, and I didn't like the idea that I was causing my suffering. I thought I was better than that. I thought I was really a superior kind of person. I could manage whatever showed up. And yes, I could manage, but the downside, the collateral damage of managing was I blamed everybody else for my problems. Yeah, I'm well adjusted, but if only you were more like me, I wouldn't have any problems. And it's completely backwards. So I guess my road has sort of been similar to yours, that once I figured out that my suffering was coming from my own expectations about the things I wanted to be different, about people that I wanted to change, about circumstances that I didn't tolerate and didn't like and wanted to get away from or run away from. Those are all things that caused me suffering. And when I started to realize that I was the one who was actually internalizing things that caused the suffering, that my view about those things was causing the suffering, it really was an eye-opener. And it still is there. It's definitely still there. But what is also there is the little footnote every time that I do that, reminding me that I'm the guy who is causing my own pain. So I think it's a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting thing. And I think for both of us, one of the major components was that we wanted to change, right? We really wanted to be happier. We wanted to be more peaceful. We wanted to be more kind and loving, or we felt we were missing something in life that other people seemed to have. And I think the guy that you really, really like a lot, and I do too, Eckhart Tolle said something along the lines of, once you're aware, the awareness is really what causes you to change. It's the greatest instrument to get you on the road to practice. Awareness, that's all. Even if you don't change, just being aware, okay, it's not everybody else, it's me. I got to work on it. Whole different mindset.
Absolutely, Rick. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been great, man. And a benefit of this too, and I'll close with this, is that of seeing people, not blaming people anymore, and being grateful to the universe that I have this opportunity to grow. A benefit that is that when I stop seeing people like that, I stop causing other people suffering. I stop making the situation worse. So, for example, somebody says something that hits your stuff, or you think that they were out of line or whatever else. You know what a lot of people do? They go tell them off. Now you hit their stuff. now you cause a problem for them, or you can just let that go. And a lot of things, man, I'm not saying everything should be let go, but if you're going to let go of it inside of you first before you address it, you want to be peaceful before you take any action that can be remotely constructive. And so with that, by you working on yourself first to be able to handle whatever you think was done that was out of line or didn't meet your expectations, by you being able to do that, you will be able to approach that situation with the right kind of language that invites people to potentially be open. Now, we don't know for sure they'll be open, but you definitely increase the likelihood. We're changing spaces after 10 years of ToBeRe, and we're moving somewhere else. And there are quite a few things that need to be attended to at the new space, like a couple of light switches aren't working, the toilets need to be replaced, all this other stuff. Now, I could have got on that phone or wrote out like this harsh, email, or I could have been kind and asking them to, hey, listen, is this part of the agreement that everything is functional? Please let me know. Thank you for considering this list of items, here that we think or needed to be repaired for us to move in. That's the way I did it. But I could have done it the other way and then caused a problem. And for the next 2 years, this relationship would have been impaired because of what I did, because I couldn't handle that things weren't the way that I thought they should be when we moved in. No, I can still be peaceful even as I go to try to correct things without casting blame, like without doing that. So if others do it, that's their path. I use it as an opportunity to grow. If I do it, then I'm the problem. So I'm done being the problem, Rick, or causing myself or others suffering.
That's great, Keith. Wonderful for you. Exactly right. Exactly right. You have to let go of those expectations of how you want things to be. If you don't, you'll be dragged. You either let go or you'll be dragged. One of the two.
That's it. You choose.
You choose, babe.
Awesome, Rick. Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you, Keith. Great show. I really appreciated hearing you about your journey.
Thank you so much.